when my DIL told me to wash the dishes. During family gathering, I quietly left, and after. The kitchen is loud, not with sound, but with clatter glances, and what goes unsaid. There's laughter in the next room, wine glasses, clinking, a baby squealing somewhere near the fireplace. But I'm standing at the sink suds, up to my wrists, trying to loosen baked-on casserole from a dish I didn't eat from. When you're done with those, could you rinse the others? My daughter-in-law says, as she breezes past me in heels. Her voice is light casual, like she's asking someone to pass the salt. But I'm her mother-in-law. I'm Marlene. I'm 68. And something about the way she said it, the way no one flinched, the way it was assumed, makes something flicker inside me. I look around. Everyone's still talking. My son is at the head of the table, telling a story I've heard before. The one about his college prank, the vending machine, the night he got caught. He's animated. They all are. My daughter-in-law is nestled against him, smiling as though she's heard it for the first time. No one looks at me. I wipe my hands on a towel, not sure why my chest feels so hollow. Maybe it was the tone, or maybe it was the years leading up to it. Years of me showing up early, to help of me bringing casseroles, and folding napkins, and tying balloons to mailboxes, and watching everyone else have fun. Of sitting quietly at the kitchen table, waiting to be noticed, or useful. But now, it's as if the only thing they see me as is a set of working hands. Not a guest, not even family, just someone to keep things running in the background. I glance at the living room. The baby is crawling toward the toy bin. My son doesn't notice. My daughter-in-law is showing off a new pair of earrings, her mother nodding in approval. My stomach knots, not from anger, but from something deeper, a kind of recognition, like watching yourself fade into the wallpaper. I turn back to the sink, water still running bubbles, floating to the rim. I stare at them a moment longer, before turning off the faucet. The towel in my hands is damp. My sweater sleeves are rolled. My shoes, flat and sensible, are by the back door. And before I can talk myself out of it, I slide them on, grab my purse from the coat rack, and walk to the door. No one sees me. I twist the knob slowly. No one asks where I'm going. The cold air hits my face, like truth. It's early evening Ohio, chill biting just enough to make me zip my jacket. I don't slam the door. I don't call attention to myself. I just step outside into the fading light and begin to walk. I pass the neighbors' hedges. I pass the parked cars. I pass years of swallowed frustration and Sunday dinners where I sat on the edge of conversations. And I keep walking because the truth is, I don't know exactly where I'm going. I just know I'm done standing at sinks while life happens in the next room. If you were me, would you have stayed? Would you have laughed politely, rinsed another dish, and waited for someone to ask if you were okay? Because no one asked. And maybe that's what broke me more than anything. The street is quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your own footsteps sound like an announcement. I walk past houses with yellow porch lights glowing past fences wrapped in plastic garland, past driveways still slick with snowmelt. Every breath I take hangs in the air before fading. I don't have a destination, just distance. By the time I reach the edge of the neighborhood, the warmth of the house I left behind has already vanished from my skin. But I feel something else blooming in its place. Relief, or maybe resolve. I don't look back. There's a diner a few blocks down Flora's. I used to stop there after church years ago, back when my husband was still alive, and we'd split a slice of rhubarb pie and talk about the sermon. I remember thinking it was nothing special, just another place to eat. Funny how grief rewrites your attachments. I step inside. It still smells like burnt coffee and fry grease, But the booth by the window is open just like I hoped. Evenin' hon, the waitress says. She's young 20 maybe. Her name tag says Tori, and she speaks with a softness I didn't know I needed. Cold out there. Colder inside, I mumble, before I realize I've spoken aloud. She gives me a puzzled look, then hands me a laminated menu and says she'll bring tea. I sit. I exhale. I stare out the window at the traffic light changing from red to green and back again. Life going on indifferent. And I start to wonder, how long have I been this invisible? I think about the years, the carpooling, the PTA meetings, the dinners, the thousands of hours I poured into making sure everyone else had what they needed. Birthdays, soccer practice, band recitals. I never once let anyone down. But when did they stop seeing me as me? When did I become just his mom? Just her mother-in-law, just the one who always brings the stuffing. I stir the sugar into my tea when it arrives. 2 creams. Muscle memory. No one here knows that I like it this way. No one here knows me at all. And strangely, I like that. Because here I am, just a woman. Just Marlene. No title, no obligation. And in that anonymity, I feel a flicker of peace. Back at the house I left behind, they're probably still laughing. Someone may have finally noticed I'm gone. Or maybe not. Maybe they think I went to lie down. Maybe they haven't looked. That hurts, but I'm not surprised. I eat a small dinner-grilled cheese tomato soup, comfort food served by someone who calls me darlin', and checks if I want extra napkins. She doesn't know anything about me, and yet I feel more acknowledged than I did all day. I finish my tea slide on my coat and walk 2 more blocks to the bed, and breakfast tucked behind the church. It's modest, 2 stories white, trim, an old bell on the porch. I check in with the cash I keep in my wallet and climb the creaky stairs to room 3B. The wallpaper is floral. There's a quilt folded on the edge of the bed. A Bible sits on the nightstand, and the window overlooks a narrow street lit with strings of Christmas lights. I sit on the edge of the bed and take off my shoes slowly. I don't feel regret. I don't feel dramatic. I just feel quiet, like someone who's finally allowed herself to stop moving. For once, no one is calling my name. No one is waiting for dinner. No one is asking for a ride, a favor, a babysitter, a casserole, or an extra set of hands in the kitchen. Just me. And for the first time in a very long time, I feel like enough. The sun filters in through the lace curtains, the kind of golden light that makes everything look like a memory. I blink against it, momentarily confused by the unfamiliar ceiling above me, the soft quilt pulled over my legs. Then it comes back to me, not in a rush, but like a gentle unfolding. I left, not angrily, not dramatically, just honestly. I sit up slowly and look around the little room. It's quiet, peaceful. There's a small desk near the window and a pot of artificial daisies by the lamp. A note on the dresser says, "Breakfast is served until 10. For the first time in years, I feel no rush, no lists, no one expecting me to be in a dozen places at once. I wrap the shawl I packed around my shoulders, just an old knit one I made years ago. Funny how something I created for someone else became the thing keeping me warm now. Downstairs, the breakfast room is quaint. Blue curtains, mismatched mugs, a buffet of fresh pastries, fruit, and hard-boiled eggs. I pick the biggest muffin I can find and sit near the window with a view of a maple tree. Outside, the frost is melting. I sip the coffee and taste it. It's bitter, but good. I think about what they're doing back at the house. By now, someone must have noticed the dishes are still in the sink. Maybe the baby's been changed. Maybe not. Maybe my daughter-in-law is telling someone I got tired and left early. I wonder if my son has called. I haven't looked at my phone. I don't want to. Instead, I take out the small notebook I carry in my purse, the one I used to use for grocery lists, doctor appointment reminders, and birthday ideas for the grandkids. Today, I write one sentence across the first clean page. I deserve kindness too. I underline it, and suddenly, I feel the weight of years pressing behind my eyes. Not tears from sadness exactly, from release. I think of my childhood, the quiet pride of my parents, the way they taught me to serve, to give, to care. But they never taught me how to ask for something back. Maybe they didn't know how. Maybe none of us did. The truth is, I didn't leave because of the dishes. I left because they didn't see me anymore. Because I stopped asking to be seen a long time ago. I finish my coffee and tuck the notebook away. And then I walk into town. There's a little main street, quaint shops, with handmade signs, a bakery, with a bell above the door, and a yarn shop, with skeins displayed like candy. I step inside, mostly to warm up, but the smell of wool and cedar hits me with unexpected nostalgia. A woman behind the counter smiles. She's older than me, with silver hair pinned back in a clip and eyes that actually look at me. "Looking for anything special?" she asks. "No," I say, "just looking." "Sometimes that's the best kind," she says, returning to her knitting. I walk the aisles. I let my fingers trail along the fibers. I think about the baby blankets I made, the scarves, the Christmas stockings, all the things I made while everyone else watched TV, while I stayed up just a little later, woke up a little earlier. There's something healing about being surrounded by things made slowly, carefully, with intention. I leave the shop with a single skein of soft gray yarn and a set of wooden needles. I haven't knit for myself in years. Back at the B&B, I sit by the window and begin a simple stitch. Nothing fancy, just something for me, just something to remind myself I'm still here, that I still matter, that I can still make something beautiful, quietly, steadily, without anyone needing to approve. By the time I return to the B&B that evening, the sun has dipped low, and the sky has turned a dusty lavender. I cradle the warmth of a takeout soup container in my hands, not because I'm hungry anymore, but because holding something warm reminds me that I still deserve comfort. The room welcomes me back like an old friend. I light the small lamp on the nightstand and place the yarn and needles beside it, careful, almost reverent. It's been years since I started a project that was mine alone. I finally turn on my phone. 10 missed calls, 3 voicemails, all from my son. The first message is stiff short. "Hey Mom, just checking if you're okay. We didn't see you leave." The second sounds more frustrated. "Look, can you just let us know where you went? You could have said something instead of just disappearing." The last one is longer, slower. "I'm sorry, okay? If something upset you, I wish you'd tell me. I feel like I don't know what's going on anymore." I listen, then replay the last one, then nothing. Not because I don't care, but because I've cared too long without being cared for. I don't reply. I simply set the phone down, place the needles in my lap, and start to knit. The stitches come back to me easily, like muscle memory, like riding a bike or humming a lullaby. My hands remember what my heart forgot how to build something for no one but myself. Each loop is quiet therapy. Each row is a reclaiming. And somewhere in the rhythm, I realize I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done being last. The next morning, I go to the desk clerk, a sweet woman named June, and ask if she knows of any short-term rentals nearby. I explain I need a little time to figure some things out. She doesn't ask for details. She just smiles and hands me a flyer from the corkboard. A week later, I move into a small upstairs unit on a tree-lined street 5 blocks from the lake. The kitchen is tiny. The oven tilts slightly to the left, but the windows are wide. The light is generous, and every inch of the place is mine. I decorate with intention. A pot of rosemary on the sill, a framed photo of my wedding day, one throw pillow on the armchair, and that same skein of gray yarn, now halfway finished resting in a wicker basket. I don't invite anyone over. Not yet. I cook what I like. I eat when I'm hungry. I play the music that once filled my house before others decided what noise mattered more. And then one afternoon a letter comes. No return address, but the handwriting is unmistakable. My granddaughter. The envelope is covered in stickers, and the word Grandma, spelled in uneven purple letters. Inside is a sheet of notebook paper, with a drawing of the two of us holding hands next to a house that looks very much like mine. It says simply, "Are you mad at us? I miss you. I love you. Do you still love me?" Something in me buckles. I press the paper to my chest and cry for the first time since I left. Not because I regret what I did, but because even when the adults don't get it, the little ones feel it. And she felt it. And maybe that's who I need to reach back for. Not the grown-ups who treated me like help, but the child who saw me as home. The letter sits on my table for 2 days before I know what to do with it. Not because I don't want to respond, but because I want to get it exactly right. My granddaughter doesn't deserve silence, not when she's the only one who reached out with open hands instead of pointed fingers. I take out my best stationery, the thick kind, with the gold trim I bought decades ago and never used. I choose a deep purple pen, her favorite color. I begin slowly, with care like you would, when writing a lullaby in longhand. "Sweetheart," I write, "I'm not mad at you. I could never be mad at you." My hand shakes slightly, not from age, but from the weight of saying the right thing, the true thing. I needed a little space. Grown-ups don't always explain things well, especially when they've been holding in their hurt for too long. But I never stopped loving you, not for 1 second. I include a photograph, one of the two of us at her 3rd birthday, frosting on her nose, her arms around my neck. I add a small gift, a short story I wrote years ago, one I never shared with anyone, about a brave little girl who built her own garden in the middle of a sidewalk crack. I print it out, fold it carefully, and tuck it inside the envelope, like a whispered promise. Then I write, "Keep growing my love. Grandma is still here." I walk it to the mailbox myself. It's cold, and the pavement glitters with frost. My breath fogs the air as I drop the letter inside. And for the first time in weeks, I don't feel like I'm running from something. I feel like I'm walking toward something new. Later that evening, I curl up on the couch knitting again, watching the way the yarn spools around itself like a memory taking shape. And it hits me, what I've been doing since I left isn't disappearing. It's reclaiming. I remember how invisible I felt at that sink. How easy it was for them to see me only when they needed something. And how dangerous it is, how painful to exist that way for too long. Eventually, something in you breaks. And I'm not ashamed of the break. I'm proud of it. I left quietly, yes, but what followed wasn't silence. It was self-respect. A week later, I receive a voicemail from my son. He sounds different now. His voice is softer, slower. "Mom," he says, "we found your note. We didn't really get it at first, but I've been thinking a lot. I think maybe I haven't been seeing things clearly. I'd like to talk when you're ready." No pressure, no guilt, just a sentence wrapped in something resembling humility. I sit with it for a long time. I don't call back yet, but I save the message, because maybe there's something there. Maybe not, but it's a start. And I'm learning that starts belong to me now. The right people will understand that, and the wrong ones won't ever deserve the explanation. The sun cuts across my kitchen table in thin, golden lines. I run my fingers along the wood grain, listening to the stillness that now fills my days. Not emptiness, stillness. There's a difference. Emptiness feels like something missing. Stillness feels like a choice. My hands move slowly as I brew tea, the kettle, letting out a soft hiss, not the sharp whistle I used to dread. No one is watching the clock. No one's yelling from the next room, asking where the clean towels are. No one is standing behind me, waiting for me to get out of their way. Just me and the ritual of taking care of myself. I pour the tea into a chipped blue mug I found at a thrift shop. It's not perfect. Neither am I. But we're both still here, still useful, still whole in our own way. I take out a folder from the drawer beside the fridge. Inside is the paper I signed last Tuesday, my newly revised will. I read it again, slow and steady. I didn't make the change to hurt anyone. I made it to heal myself. I left the bulk of my estate, modest as it may be to my granddaughter. She's the one who saw me after all. The one who felt the silence I left behind. The one who reached across that silence with nothing but stickers, crooked letters, and raw love. To my son, I left a letter. Not bitter, not dramatic, just honest. I tell him how I loved raising him, how proud I was, and how sad I've become watching myself vanish in the background of his life. I write, you don't need to call. You don't need to fix anything. I just needed you to know the truth before I go. It's not meant to punish. It's meant to finally speak. The following Saturday, I walk to the lake. It's early mist, curling across the water ducks, stirring along the shoreline. I sit on the bench I've come to think of as mine, and I breathe, long, slow breaths that fill my chest in a way no apology ever could. And that's when I hear footsteps behind me. Mama. I turn. It's my son, alone. His hair is longer than I remember. His face tired, like he's been carrying something heavy. He doesn't smile right away, just lowers himself to the bench beside me, quiet. I came to talk, if you'll let me. I say nothing. He pulls out a thermos and pours tea into 2 small cups. I remembered you like cinnamon spice. I don't know if that's changed. It hasn't. He sets the cup down gently, his hand shaking just a little. I didn't see you, he says. Not really. I don't think I ever realized what that meant until you weren't there. I nod once. It's not enough, but it's more than I expected. We sit there for a long time, side by side, steam rising from our cups, the water lapping gently at the rocks. There are no big speeches, no dramatic reconciliations, just a beginning. When we leave the lake, the sky has begun to shift into that soft, gray blue of approaching dusk. My son walks me back to my apartment, not out of obligation, but something closer to reverence. He notices the way the front steps creak, the way I pause before unlocking the door. He's never walked me home before, not like this. Inside, he looks around quietly. There's not much: my yarn basket, a few framed photos, the small bookshelf with my favorites. But he lingers, like everything is new, or maybe like he's seeing it for the first time. This place suits you, he says gently. I don't reply. I just nod and offer him a seat. He hesitates before sitting, almost like he knows he needs permission now. He looks at the gray scarf in progress on my table. I didn't know you were still knitting. I never stopped, I say. He picks up the scarf fingers, running across the stitches, slow and clumsy. I used to think you liked doing everything, he admits. Hosting, cooking, cleaning. I thought it made you happy. It did, I say. But not when it became expected. Not when no one ever asked if I was tired. There's a long pause. I was tired, I whisper. So tired. His eyes drop, and something breaks open in the quiet. He doesn't cry. But I do. Not out of anger. Not anymore. But grief. Grief for the years I kept pouring from a cup no one thought to refill. We sit there for a while, the silence growing softer, not heavier. Before he leaves, he hugs me, tighter than he has in years. I want to do better, he says. I don't know how, but I want to. That's all I needed to hear, I say. The wanting. He steps back and looks around once more, like he's memorizing the space, then leaves with a promise to call next week. I don't hold him to it, but I hope he does. That night, I finish the scarf. Wrap it once around my neck, just to feel what I've made with my own hands. I feel warmer than I have in months. Then I light a candle, a small one, lavender-scented leftover from an old Christmas box. I sip tea from my chipped blue mug and stare out the window as snow starts to fall again. Not like before. Not heavy. Not trapping. But light. Gentle. Like a blanket being pulled up over the past. I think of the woman I was a month ago, standing at that sink, suds on her hands, hurt in her throat, a heart full of things she didn't know how to say. She's gone now, not vanished, transformed, and in her place is someone who knows the sound of her own name when it's spoken with care. Someone who walked away, not to punish, but to protect what was left of herself. The days pass differently now. Not slower, just clearer. I wake when I choose. I dress in soft clothes that don't beg for approval. I write more. Little things, memories, recipes, dreams I once had, but shelved away under not now. I keep them in a box marked someday. And now finally, I've started opening that box. I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone anymore. Not my worth, not my usefulness. Not even my presence. I exist on my own terms. And in that space, something strange happens. I start to feel younger. Not in body, of course, but in spirit, in the way I laugh again, in how I hum to myself while folding laundry, or how I stop to watch birds outside the window, like I did when I was 10. I even begin to write letters again. Not just to my granddaughter, though she remains my favorite pen pal, but to myself. Letters that begin with Dear Marlene, I'm proud of you. Letters I never expected to need. One morning, a small package arrives. It's from my granddaughter. Inside is a photo. She drew me in my new apartment, surrounded by hearts and tea, as she labeled it, and a short letter written in painstaking print. I miss you, but I'm glad you're happy. Mommy said you needed time and space. I hope you come back to visit someday. Love, your favorite girl. My chest tightens, but not from pain, from healing. And I realize leaving wasn't just for me. It was a lesson, a ripple, a way to say, this is not okay without screaming. I sit with her letter and write back that afternoon. I tell her I'll visit soon, but more importantly, I tell her this. Never let anyone make you feel small just because you're kind, because kindness is not servitude, and love is not a list of chores. I walk to the post office to mail it and smile as I pass a woman walking her dog. We exchange a good morning like neighbors do. She doesn't know my story, doesn't know what it took to get here, but I carry that story in the way I stand now. Shoulders back, eyes forward, and heart wide open, but no longer unguarded. Later that week, I start a new scarf. This one is yellow bright and bold, the kind of color I used to avoid because it drew too much attention. Now I want to be seen. The knock at the door is soft, almost hesitant. I set down my knitting and peer through the peephole. It's him, my son, again. But this time, he's not alone. My daughter-in-law stands beside him, holding my granddaughter's hand. There's a bouquet of tulips in her arms, my favorite, though I never told her that. I hesitate, hand resting on the knob. Part of me wants to retreat to the quiet I've worked so hard to build. But another part, the gentler, braver one, turns it slowly and opens the door. Hi, Mom. he says, eyes uncertain. We were in the neighborhood. She's the one who steps forward. I wanted to say something to you in person. Her voice wavers. Not performative, not polished, just real. I was wrong, she says. I thought I was being efficient, just keeping things moving. But I wasn't thinking about what I was asking, or who I was asking it from. She offers me the tulips, both hands extended like an offering. I forgot you were a guest too, she says. I'm sorry. I look at the flowers. I look at her, and I look down at my granddaughter, whose eyes search mine, like they're begging for a sign. I open the door wider. Come in, I say. Just for a bit. They file in, gently removing their coats, unsure where to sit. The apartment is quiet. No smell of roast, no table set. Just the natural messiness of someone living alone and living well. I place the tulips in the sink for now. They'll wait. I want to hear what they all have to say. My son kneels beside me, uncharacteristically humble. I'm sorry, Mom. I think I got so used to you being the glue that I didn't realize what it was costing you. It cost more than you think, I say. But I don't raise my voice. He nods, eyes glassy. I know. Or I'm starting to. Then he glances at his daughter. She talks about you all the time. She keeps a picture of you in her backpack. Tears rise, uninvited. Not of weakness, of recognition. We sit for a long time. No yelling, no grand conclusions. Just slow rebuilding brick by brick, breath by breath. Before they leave, my daughter-in-law looks around the apartment. It's beautiful, she says. It's mine, I answer. And she nods with quiet respect. When they go, my granddaughter slips me a folded paper heart. Don't go away again, she whispers. I'll always be somewhere. You can find me, I tell her, even if it's not the same place. And that's the truth. I may not go back to being the woman who made holidays happen. I may never stand at their sink again. But I'll be present in the ways that matter, and in the places where I am seen. That night, I place the tulips in the center of my small table. I light a candle. I pour myself a glass of wine, not to celebrate them coming back into my life, but to honor the woman who made herself whole before they did. The next morning, I wake up to silence again, but this time, it feels different. Less like solitude, more like peace. There's no tightness in my chest, no sting in my throat, just a softness that settles over me, like a well-loved quilt. I make my tea, I water my rosemary. I pick up the yellow scarf and finish the last few stitches. It's long and imperfect and radiant, and it is mine. Later that afternoon, I walk to the park. There's a bench beneath a willow tree, its branches swaying like tired arms, still full of grace. I sit there and watch the world move gently, dogs chasing leaves, a child learning to ride a bike, an older couple holding hands like nothing ever hurt them. It's a kind of joy that doesn't need to be loud. I open the notebook I keep in my bag and write just one sentence. I am not the dishes in your sink. I underline it twice because I was never meant to stay invisible. I was never meant to shrink so others could stretch. I was allowed to want rest, recognition, and warmth that wasn't only reserved for others. It took walking away to realize that. And still, even now, I can feel the tug, the old voice whispering, "But what if they need you again?" They might, but I won't forget myself in the process. I've rewritten my story. Not out of revenge, not out of anger, but out of a quiet, steady love for the woman I lost along the way and found again in a rented room with aching feet and a stubborn heart. I hope they remember me, not just as the one who brought the pie, the one who washed the dishes, the one who stayed late to clean up, but as the one who, when finally asked too much, stood up without a word and walked back into her own life. The scarf now hangs by my door, a streak of sunshine against the muted wall. It reminds me every time I step out that I am allowed to be bright, to be visible, to take up space. That warmth doesn't always have to come from giving, it can come from keeping, too. One afternoon, a neighbor I've only waved to before stops me in the hallway. "I've been meaning to tell you," she says. "I see you sitting by the lake sometimes. You always look so peaceful, like you're waiting for no one, and yet you're not alone." Her words settle over me like something holy. I smile and nod. "That's exactly right." She smiles back. "You remind me to slow down." It's a small thing, but it means everything, because I spent so many years speeding through service, through love that looked like sacrifice, through days where my name wasn't spoken, just summoned in the form of a favor. Now I move at my own pace. I eat when I'm hungry. I rest when I'm tired. I don't apologize when I say no. And the more I honor myself, the more I realize that I was never asking for too much. I was just asking the wrong people. Sometimes the ones you love are so wrapped up in their own lives that they don't see what they've taken from you until you leave, and your absence becomes the first real thing they've ever truly heard. Not everyone understood why I left that day. Not everyone had to. It wasn't about the dishes. It was about dignity. It wasn't about silence. It was about survival. And though I may never return to that kitchen, that table, that role, I've returned to myself. That's the most sacred home of all. And every day now I live in it. Fully. Freely. Finally. The calendar turns quietly. Days become weeks. The snow begins to recede, and with it, the last traces of that old life, the one I stepped out of, with wet hands and a dry heart. Spring creeps in slowly. Buds on the trees, children in lighter jackets, windows open just enough to let hope drift in. I plant herbs in a row of chipped teacups on my windowsill, thyme, mint, and basil. It feels like rebuilding from the smallest places. My granddaughter writes again. Her letters have become a regular rhythm, crayon-colored pages filled with stars and silly stories. In one, she asks if I still make cinnamon toast. "Daddy says yours was better than Mommy's," she scrawls. I smile for a long time at that one. She doesn't know it yet, but she's the legacy I'm choosing. Not just in the will, but in the way I live now. In the lessons I hope echo through her someday. That love doesn't mean erasure. That kindness doesn't mean servitude. That grandmothers, mothers, women do not disappear just because no one is looking directly at them. One bright Saturday, I host a lunch. Just one neighbor, and a woman from the yarn shop, and June the innkeeper who gave me that first quiet room. It's nothing fancy, just chicken salad, fresh bread, and lemon water with slices so thin they're nearly translucent. But it is mine. I serve it with hands that are no longer trembling from too much giving. We eat, we laugh, we share stories none of us had time to tell in our past lives, the ones filled with obligation and performance. And when they leave, I sit in the doorway as the late afternoon light stretches across my small rug. It's not a palace, this place. It doesn't gleam, but it holds me. It holds who I've become. Later that evening, I walk to the lake again. The bench is still there, just beneath the willow green leaves, finally beginning to uncurl. I sit and breathe. The phone in my pocket buzzes. It's my son. A photo this time. My granddaughter, holding a yellow scarf around her shoulders. She won't take it off, the message reads. Says it smells like you. I press the phone to my heart, close my eyes, and let the tears come soft this time. No grief, just fullness. Because this right here is what healing looks like. Not grand, not loud, just real. Just enough. The seasons continue their quiet turning. I start each morning with tea and music, letting sunlight guide the shape of my day. I move more slowly now, not because I have to, but because I can. There's no schedule pinned to the fridge, No voice calling from upstairs. Just breath. Just presence. One morning, as I water my tiny row of herbs, I whisper a thank you to the woman I used to be. The one who stayed too long at sinks, smiled too wide for too little, gave too much, without knowing she was running dry. She meant well. She just didn't know she was allowed to want more. But I know now. The truth is, I didn't walk away out of spite. I walked away because I'd begun to vanish, and I couldn't afford to lose any more of myself. And it's strange, isn't it? How the smallest things can become sacred when we finally choose them for ourselves. A quiet room, a scarf in the making, a letter from a granddaughter with sticker hearts around the border, a lunch made with intention, not expectation. I used to think legacy was something loud, a name on a plaque, a fortune passed down. But maybe legacy is smaller, softer. Maybe it's teaching someone, just one someone, that they never have to beg to be seen. That's what I hope I've given her, my favorite girl. One day, I'll visit her again. I'll sit beside her and brush the hair from her face and ask about her dreams, her drawings, her favorite song. And when I leave, she'll know without question, Grandma left, not to disappear, but to reappear as someone whole, someone free, someone finally, blessedly home. Because this is what home is, now the freedom to say no, the power to be still, the grace to walk away without slamming the door, and the wisdom to open it again when love knocks differently. It's a Tuesday when I get the final letter I didn't know I needed. Not from my granddaughter this time, but from my son. It's handwritten, not typed. No text message, no voice note, just real pen to real paper, like something that costs effort and heart. Mom, it begins. I've read your letter more times than I want to admit. At first I was angry, then ashamed, then just quiet. I don't know when I stopped seeing you as a whole person. Maybe it started small. Maybe I got comfortable. Maybe I was selfish. But I'm sorry. He goes on, not with excuses, but with truth. I thought you wanted to be the one who held everything together. I didn't realize you were falling apart under it. By the time I reach the last line, I'm crying again. I know I can't rewrite the years, but I can change how I carry the ones ahead. If you let me, I want to be better. Not just for you, for her, so she learns. I fold the letter slowly and place it in my nightstand, beside a photograph of my husband and me in our early 30s, smiling in a way that tells me we didn't yet know what pain was waiting, but also that we never expected how deep joy could be either. It's a good picture. That night, I light a single candle, not for grief, not for memory, just for stillness. I sit in my chair, knitting in my lap, the scent of basil from the windowsill faint in the air. I don't need big gestures now. I don't need apologies wrapped in flowers or phone calls drenched in guilt. I just need consistency and respect. The simplest gifts are the rarest. I write back to my son the next morning, only a few lines. I see your heart. I never needed perfect, just honest, and I mean it. The next Sunday, I go back to the lake. This time, my granddaughter runs to meet me, scarf flying behind her like a banner. She throws her arms around my waist and holds me so tightly, I feel every ounce of love pressed into her hug. No words, just everything that matters. We walk along the path together, her little hand in mine, and I think not of what was taken, but of what I reclaimed. Because sometimes walking away isn't the end of the story. It's the start of being heard. The end doesn't come with a bang. It comes with softness, a steady breath, a cup of warm tea left steaming on the table, while I gaze out the window at the dogwood, blooming just beyond the sidewalk. Life, I've learned, is not about how much noise you make while you're here. It's about the quiet choices, the ones no one sees, the ones you make for yourself because they make you feel right. I sit at my table now, one hand wrapped around my mug, the other resting on the yellow scarf that started it all. It's slightly frayed on one end. I could fix it, but I don't want to. It's honest, just like me. I think about that night, my hands in the sink, the voices in the other room, my daughter-in-law's offhanded command. Go ahead and wash the rest. I'll never forget how small I felt, but I'll also never forget how big the moment became. Because it was the moment I finally said, with my silence, with my steps, with my absence, enough. And in that single decision, I opened a door to a life I didn't even know I was allowed to want. One where I am not just someone's mother, or someone's helper, or the one who always stays late to sweep up the crumbs of other people's comfort. One where I am simply Marlene, a woman who left the kitchen and found herself on the road to something softer, stronger. The kind of woman who wears yellow scarves in spring and writes letters full of truth and keeps teacups planted with mint on her windowsill. The kind of woman who might not be at the next family gathering, but who, if invited properly with kindness and care, might one day walk back in through the front door. Not to work, not to serve, but to be held, to be honored, to be seen. Because at the end of the day, that's all any of us really want, isn't it? To be loved without being used, to be welcomed without being worn out, to be remembered not just when something needs to be done, but simply because we matter. So I'll leave you with this, from one tired heart to another. If they ever forget your worth, don't beg them to remember. Just quietly leave the room and build a life where your name is spoken with reverence. Because you deserve that. We all do. And now I sit here in the quiet of my home dusk, curling along the windows, tea gone cold, but my heart so full. The world didn't change when I left that house, but I did. There is power in a quiet goodbye, in the rustle of a coat being buttoned, in the soft click of a door closing without drama. I didn't shout. I didn't slam anything. I didn't explain. I just chose myself. And if you've ever felt invisible at your own table, if you've ever swallowed your name so someone else could feel more comfortable, know this. You're not wrong for wanting to be loved in the light. You're not selfish for walking away from shadows. You are allowed to change the story, even if they don't understand the plot twist. Especially then. So now when my granddaughter writes me, I tell her stories about courage, about kindness, about walking away with grace, about not shrinking to fit into spaces that no longer feel like home. I don't want her to remember me as bitter. I want her to remember me as brave. And I hope with every word she reads, with every scarf she wraps around her shoulders, she knows she comes from a long line of women who left quietly and rose loudly.